Tony and Michelle were involved in numerous missions under the supervision of Chief Kilo of the Calo Wago Motorcycle Club. However, one of them ended in the most disastrous possible way for the duo. Let's have a look at this. After eliminating their rival Yair in a car park in Brooklyn Station and escaping in a black Seat, a problem arises when they are transferred to a second vehicle, a Peugeot, which is waiting for them in a parking lot in a small village. After dousing the Seat with petrol, Tony realizes that he doesn't have a lighter to set it on fire. This huge mistake increases the stress, and Tony, in his haste as a driver, decides it's better to take off with the Peugeot, leaving the Seat behind, along with a multitude of intriguing clues for the police. The Seat contains weapons and other objects used in the elimination of Yair, enough evidence to easily recover their DNA. The two are on their way to a hangar to drop off the car. Tony's teammate Michelle is furious because, in his role as the shooter, he knows it's necessary to eliminate the evidence. In the car, Michelle insists that Tony turn back, but Tony categorically refuses to do so. Tony's conscience doesn't really leave him alone, as he later points out.
I feel just as guilty as if I pulled the trigger myself. I've gone much too far. I'm no angel. I've always been involved in drug dealing, but this step was much too far.
When they arrive at the hangar to drop off the car, they meet Greg, who has a reputation as a kind of godfather. Tony even remembers once consulting his Wikipedia page to see what was being said about him.
They referred to him as the godfather of Calo Wago. I was surprised. I knew he was famous, but I wanted to see what was written about him on Wikipedia.
In the hangar, a striking situation arises when Greg starts asking direct questions about the assassination and how it happened. His first question is whether they have just eliminated Zeki, even though they had just killed Yair. This moment of confusion reveals that several missions are being carried out simultaneously. According to Tony, there were at least 40 people on the blacklist. This Zeki refers to Zeki Yumuşak, a Turk from Rotterdam and an acquaintance of Tony. At this stage, it is crucial to understand the overall context of the situation. According to the judicial authorities, Kilo acted mainly as an executor of dirty works for TAGHI's organization. Once the liquidation orders have been received, he would have formed and tasked specific action cells among the members of his motorcycle club, Calo Wago, to do the work in return for financial compensation. Kilo is considered to be the ruthless kingpin, and one prosecutor even described the violence perpetrated by this group as unprecedented.
If this scenario had been pitched to a production company as a film script, it would likely have been rejected as too implausible. A simple notification via phone determined life and death.
The individual is seen as having completely lost touch with reality, at the head of a group whose business model is the death trade, with no regard for human life. And all this is done in the greatest secrecy, particularly with regard to the clients. For example, there is an intermediate unit between Ridwan and Kilo, essentially managed by a duo made up of Wizard and Big. As far as Big is concerned, he's seen as someone who doesn't need to get his hands dirty, because he gets enough money from the organization he works for, leaving others to do the dirty work. With Kilo, he speaks of the price of a life as an unimportant triviality.
I don't know what you discussed with him, but I pay for the decoys, the spotters, the cars, the weapons, so I don't know what the other guy told you. And everything you get, we don't get nothing. I've already told you, if you do everything yourself, you can earn 90 or 100k, but you've now seen from experience that it doesn't work. So we'd still be at the same starting point in 10 years' time. And recently you've come to complain that it's not your job to provide other things, and that normally we're only asking for shooters.
In this coded message, Big gives an update on the rates for each mission, after it seems that Kilo was not informed in the most precise way. The average price for a liquidation is around 75,000 euros, a sum that must be shared between the Kilo group, provided that the client supplies the spotters, cars, etc. in advance. In the other case, as specified in the message, if Kilo takes care of everything himself, the price goes up. However, from their shared experience, it appears that this is not working as well as hoped. As a result, Kilo will simply continue to provide the executors and leave the rest of the group around Ridwan. It also emerges that, apart from TAGHI's circle, Kilo would have accepted the order to eliminate Zeki, this hit coming from a Turkish criminal organization in conflict with the latter, still tied to drug-related matters. According to Tony, Greg, as a veteran of the criminal underworld, acted as an advisor to the club, and it was he who put Kilo in touch with the Turkish client. The mission would have been set up long before Yair's, once again with the help of Tony and his father Evert. In June 2017, it all began when Kilo contacted Tony by sending a photo. This one shows a sort of wedding ceremony, with people dressed in costumes sitting at a table, including Zeki. In the photo, he is highlighted by a circle framing his head. The photo is surrounded by handwritten references to Zeki and addresses, including that of the restaurant where he is a regular customer. Kilo shows all of this to Tony and asks him if he knows the man in question. After Tony confirms, he is asked to approach Zeki to discuss business. At Tony's request, his father Evert contacted Zeki via Facebook at 11:56 p.m. on the 9th of June. This leads to a meeting between Evert, Tony and Zeki, scheduled to take place in an IKEA shop. At this meeting, Zeki expresses his reluctance to do business with Tony because of his drug problem and his reputation as a scammer. That's when Evert points out that transactions can be made directly with him, bypassing any concerns about his son Tony. After promising to soon rent a car from Zeki's company to establish a business relationship, this meeting proves to be positive. This is how Tony is able to take a photo of his father walking with Zeki. He then sent the photo to Kilo as proof of the established contact. However, in relation to this meeting, Kilo made it clear to Tony that Zeki shouldn't just be approached for a deal, but that he needed to be eliminated. Tony wasn't inclined to accept this mission, and luckily it was put on hold. Kilo, for his part, felt that the remuneration offered by the Turkish organization for this mission was too low compared with those offered by the organization led by TAGHI. For this reason, TAGHI's group's missions became the top priority, as the logistics were fully provided, requiring less effort from Kilo. However, after Yair's execution, on the orders of TAGHI's organization, Kilo again applies the pressure to shift the focus towards Zeki. Tony is once again appointed by Kilo to carry out this mission, especially since he failed to set the getaway car on fire when Yair was eliminated. Tony already has almost 1 foot in prison, so it's best for him to go full speed ahead, and the same goes for his teammate Michelle. For various reasons, Tony no longer wishes to take part in this mission at all and is looking for a way to get out of it without arousing suspicion. However, as long as he is under pressure, he must continue to play the game. One weekend, he travels to Delft to pick up a Glock from another biker, Willem. The latter will also play a key role in the liquidation, informing Tony that once he has the weapon in his possession, he must execute Zeki immediately. Ultimately, on July 24th, Tony and Michelle decide not to proceed with the mission and fabricate a story claiming that they had been arrested and detained at a police station. In a conversation intercepted on Tony's phone, he contacts a landline number corresponding to Michelle's home in order to work out their story.
Yo, say you've been in custody since Sunday, okay? On Sunday afternoon, your wife was called by the police station, okay?
Tony then cuts off all contact with the members of Calo Wago and decides to take his family to a holiday park in the Netherlands. However, Zeki does not escape his disastrous fate. On 25th of July, he makes a number of trips, starting with a quick visit to a shop, then going to the canteen of Rotterdam football club RVV Kojatepe, where he behaves nervously, according to people he met that day. Soon after his arrival, his friends notice that he is often distracted by numerous telephone calls until he finally leaves the premises. According to the police, he had felt threatened for some time and was therefore particularly suspicious. In the evening, he travels to the south of Rotterdam for an appointment, during which he is supposed to deliver a car to a customer. Being very suspicious, he even films videos of the area with his phone and posts them on Instagram at around 11:30 p.m. Unfortunately, his concerns were justified, as shortly afterwards he comes under fire. A passerby tries to resuscitate him, but in vain. And so Zeki's life comes to an end, the victim of a violent act that he had foreseen. Tony learns from the media that the mission still succeeded, without his assistance. He is worried about being spotted by the police, especially because of the evidence left in the car during the Yair mission and the potential repercussions with his former friends from the bikers club. Tony knows perfectly well that he's in a tricky situation. He understands that the slightest refusal to accept a mission ordered by the criminal organization risks attracting its displeasure, knowing that those who refuse are often eliminated.
It's not a bikers club, it's a criminal organisation. 80% of them don't even have a motorbike driving licence.
Tony thinks he'll find refuge in Spain, so he decides to go there with his friend Michelle, in the hope of escaping the problems that hunt him. However, their stay there was cut short by the constant arguments between them. Out of patience, only a week after their arrival, Michelle decided to return to the Netherlands by plane. Once in the south of Spain, Tony settles in a coastal town that he knows well. Despite being hunted down by the Spanish police, he leads a seemingly normal life as a tourist. His days are spent enjoying the beach and sipping cocktails on the terrace, seemingly savouring a carefree holiday rather than living in hiding. So in October 2017, the police raided the flat he occupied, and Tony found himself face to face with a member of the Dutch police, instantly realizing that his time was running out. His stay and his status as a fugitive are coming to an end. Michelle suffered the same fate in the Netherlands. It is important to note that Tony practically immediately admits his involvement in the mission concerning Yair at Breukelen Station. However, his admission is only the beginning, as he realizes he has no choice but to continue making statements. and all of them will have considerable impact on his former colleagues.
I committed a lot of crimes, but no murders. That was my limit. Killing people on behalf of other people, because of conflicts you had nothing to do with, for a pittance of money. That's what Calowago did.
Tony mainly played the role of driver, probably influenced by his family history, which is closely linked to cars. Like his mother, he grew up in a caravan camp in Spijkenisse, where the trade in damaged cars was commonplace. It was discovered that his father ran a car wrecking business there, and Tony started working there at a very early age. He follows in his father's footsteps into the world of petty crime, as it seems that his father used to install hiding places in cars. These vehicles were highly prized by the Rotterdam underworld for concealing drugs and large sums of money. The family business was a little bit of everything. Tony gradually acquired his father's know-how, carving out a place for himself in the drug trafficking scene by establishing connections through all of this. This led him to take more and more drugs himself.
People also say that you are often under the influence of alcohol and, above all, drugs.
I like to party. When I drink, I use drugs. Cocaine. After drinking about 10 glasses of Bacardi, I start using cocaine to keep partying without getting drunk.
Do you think drug use affects your memory?
No, I often can't remember dates, but otherwise I don't have any memory problems.
He is also seen by those around him as a professional liar, having scammed many people in the past.
It's true. It was a question of money. I didn't always tell the truth, and that often worked for me, but that doesn't mean that everything I say is a lie.
There's nothing worse than a consumer of his own stuff in the business world, and Tony ends up with serious problems on all sides. He realizes that he has more enemies than friends in the Rotterdam milieu. He finds himself blacklisted by his former associates. However, in 2016, he manages to find his place within the Calowago Motorcycle Club, which some consider a refuge to escape from a turbulent past. The decisive moment arrives for him, his arrest. Tony wants to make a clean break by revealing everything he knows about Calowago in exchange for a reduced sentence and, most importantly, protection in return. He takes this decision because he realizes that his life is almost over. Even if he spends many years in prison, when he gets out, he'll always have to look over his shoulder. As he points out, the police won't kill him, but he can't say the same for his former clubmates. He believes that his decision to provide information is his only chance of getting out of the criminal world. He will lay his cards on the table, sparing no one in his declarations, whether it be his father or his lifelong friend Michelle.
We've all seen that your father plays a major role in the case. Have you told us everything you know about your father?
Yes, everything.
Do you find it difficult to testify about him?
They're family. I simply said what I know. I'm not concerned about who will or won't be arrested, because that's not up to me. If the justice system deems someone should be arrested, then so be it. It's not a matter of compromise.
Tony feels a deep anger towards Kilo, whom he sees as responsible for putting him under so much pressure to become even more involved in crime. However, according to Kilo's lawyer, Tony is known as a notorious scammer and pathological liar, having caused enough problems in the milieu to seek refuge and safety among bikers. What's more, the lawyer points out that Kilo would never have confided any secrets to this manipulator. Despite this, the courts will consider most of Tony's future statements to be reliable. Tony will provide a total of 25 valuable statements to the Special Testimonies Analysis Team. All of this leads to an agreement with the state in November 2018. These statements provide many new clues, which the police will consider a real goldmine. shaking up Kilo's group is on the agenda, even as they continue to operate on the ground as if nothing has changed.